Today, we're going to get inside the mind of an absolute master of filmmaking, the legendary Ingmar Bergman. But here's the thing, we're not just going to talk about his movies. We're diving deep into his philosophy and how he saw himself not really as a director, but as something else entirely, a kind of magician.
So Bergman kicks things off with this incredible idea. He says filmmaking is basically an act of magic. It's a trick. He's not just telling you a story, he's performing an illusion, playing a trick on your eyes. So what is this deception he's talking about?
Well, the magic is all rooted in a really simple illusion. A movie is just a bunch of still pictures, right? But in between every single frame, there's a flicker of pure black. Bergman actually figured out that if you're watching a 1-hour film, you are literally sitting in complete darkness for almost half of it, 27 minutes. Your brain does all the work, filling in the gaps to create movement. That's the conjurer's trick right there. So you have to wonder, where does a worldview like that even come from? For Bergman, the seeds of all this cinematic magic were planted way before he ever picked up a camera. It all goes back to his childhood. And here he is, the man himself as a young artist. His whole journey to becoming this conjurer really began in his grandmother's apartment, in a world where everything he saw, heard, and felt was just heightened. And that would define his art for the rest of his life. I mean, listen to this. As a little kid, he remembers sitting under the dining room table and not just seeing the sunshine on the floor, but listening to it. He experienced light as if it were sound, a kind of special music. For him, the senses were already starting to blur together. And that led to this one truly magical moment. When he was just 5 years old, he was looking at a painting of Venice on the wall. And as the sunlight moved across it, and he heard piano music from another room, the painting came alive. The water started to flow, pigeons flew out of the square, and it felt like the music was coming from the picture itself. It was basically his very first movie, and it was all happening inside his head. Which brings us to his first actual conjuring set, the magic lantern. Now, this was just a simple toy, a little metal box that projected images from colored glass slides onto a wall. But for young Ingmar, this was way more than a toy. It was a tool that helped him figure out the entire world. You see, as the son of a pastor, Bergman grew up hearing about these huge, abstract ideas like God and the devil. And the magic lantern, it made them real. He remembered the slide of the wolf from Red Riding Hood, and when that gaping red mouth was projected on his wall, that became the devil. He was already using images to give form to the things you can't see. So how does that little kid who sees pictures come to life grow into the master director who brings his own visions to the screen? Well, let's get into his creative process, which honestly is just as poetic as you'd imagine. This is Bergman's favorite metaphor for a film idea. It's not some big, detailed plan. It's just a tiny thing, a single vivid image, a little bit of music, a phrase he overhears. It's like a brightly colored thread that he just knows is attached to something much bigger, hidden deep down. So the whole process starts with just a fleeting, split-second impression. He spots it. That's his thread. And then comes the really important part. He has to carefully, patiently begin to wind it up. And if he pulls on it just right, a whole world starts to come out with it. Characters, feelings, a rhythm, a complete film. But, having a beautiful vision is one thing. Actually making it happen is a whole other story. Bergman was always painfully aware of the massive conflict at the heart of filmmaking, the battle between pure art and the cold, hard realities of the industry. This image kind of captures the chaos and the pressure he felt. He called the industry a place of undisguised brutality. He saw it as a world run by people who only understood profit and loss, not creative vision. And this is exactly what it felt like to him. Being a serious director wasn't a job, it was a high-wire act. If your film bombed, if people didn't buy tickets, there was no safety net. You just fall, and the conjurer could lose his magic wand for good. So you've got these two forces just constantly at war. On one side, his deep belief that his only value as an artist was his total creative freedom. And on the other side, the industry, which he called a ruthlessly efficient sausage machine, just grinding up talent. For him, there was no room for compromise. All this struggle brings us to the biggest, most profound part of Bergman's whole philosophy. I mean, if the industry is so brutal, why even do it? What's the point of art anyway? For Bergman, the answer was hiding in the distant past. Now, this is a pretty radical idea. Bergman basically argues that art became sterile and self-obsessed when it stopped being for something bigger, something collective. when it stopped being a form of worship. He said it cut an umbilical cord and just started admiring itself in the mirror. And his favorite example was the story of Chartres Cathedral. After a fire, thousands of people, artists, workers, nobles, everybody, came together to rebuild it. They all worked for one single higher purpose. And here's the key. They were all anonymous. Nobody signed their work. The work itself was what mattered. He contrasts that with the modern art world. Today, he says, the artist is everything. Every little feeling, every bit of ego is treated like it's the most important thing in the world. He pictured modern artists standing around in a pen, all bleating about how lonely they are. And so this was Bergman's ultimate ambition, to just get rid of that modern ego and be like one of those anonymous craftsmen from the cathedral, to make a gargoyle, or a window, or an angel. The specific job didn't matter. What mattered was just being a part of building something sacred and bigger than himself.
And that leaves us with a really powerful question to think about. Bergman looked to the past to find a collective purpose for his art. It makes you wonder, in our own time, which is so focused on the self, what's the great cathedral that we might be building together? What shared work gives our own creativity a real purpose?